We are back. It has been a huge hiatus for the warm down pool. I am joined by a former guest of the show, now a co-host of the show, Dan Flack. Dan, thanks for joining us here, and welcome to the show. Lots to talk about in the swimming space, and yeah, you and I have been chatting for quite some time, and we wanted to bring this back.
Yeah, thanks. I've upgraded from guest to co-host. Um, uh, Glad to be here. Excited to talk about some swimming.
Yep.
Um,
Huge pay bump going
there
from
you
guest
go.
to host.
Yes, but looking forward to this. This should be some fun.
Yeah, I think one of the things, I mean, for the people who have listened to us in the past, obviously we've done interviews. I interviewed you as well as other coaches at the club, college, and high school level. It was kind of my therapy for a while. I was using it it was cheaper than therapy too. I'll say that much. But it was also one of those where I got to connect with a lot of people and talk with them about their experiences in coaching. And from that, it made me feel like I wasn't alone. So I think that's the biggest thing that I took away from it. And then my real job got in the way. And as a result, wasn't doing it as much. And now, after you and I have chatted for quite some time, just made the decision to really put the effort in and move forward with it. So the big thing that we're going to talk about, post NCAA women's and men's national championships were the last 2 weeks. We're gonna save the good, the bad, and the ugly, which is the format and all the wonderful changes that took place for the very end. Let's talk about the women's meet. UVA gets championship number six in a row, and the first one that doesn't have a Walsh in it. So that is probably what was the most impressive one to me. Todd DeSorbo doing amazing things down at UVA, taking a lot of heat, and we'll talk about that with the men for sure. But I think they call them bathtub swimmers or happy fun time swimming or whatever, but I don't care, Dan. Whatever it is, it's working. It really is.
It certainly is. They across the board. They had another tremendous meet. Didn't matter the stroke, the distance. Relays were on fire. They really tore it up, and I don't see that train getting derailed anytime soon.
Absolutely. Got a great recruiting class coming in next year. A fairly young class this year as well for Virginia. I mean, you still have Leah Hayes, you have Katie Grimes. I think Amy Canny is really one of the few seniors. Kevin Gormson, I believe, is a senior as well. I'm kind of going through their roster right now. Amy Canny, yep. Claire Curzan, that's going to be a huge loss for him, obviously.
That's
And then
a lot of points walking out the door.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Bryn Greenwald, who was a transfer from Augustana University up in South Dakota. And a few of Carly Novaline, who has been a big contributor for the program. Emma Weber graduating and probably moving into the pro ranks. I'm excited for Emma. Short course yards has not been her forte. She obviously was an Olympian in the 100 breaststroke long course. I think that's going to be a big step for her to go with that pro group if she decides to stay in Charlottesville. But I think the next story we talk about, though, at NCAA is the return of the Cal Bears. Dave Durden and crew getting the women back on track and with having two major freshmen this year with Claire Weinstein and Tegan Odell, both of them huge contributors, both putting up nearly 50 points each. Claire, obviously champion. I think it was in the 200 freestyle, was that? Yeah, 2 free national champion. Sorry, 5 free national champion. My bad. Tegan swimming out of her mind as well and having a great performance. They've got another big recruiting class coming in next year. So Cal back on the rise for the women after a few down years and upheaval.
Absolutely, and it's exciting to see them back. Coach Durden is way too good a coach to keep them down, and now he's fully ensconced and entrenched in the being involved with the women's program. I only see nothing but great things for them.
Yeah, and I think the one thing, and obviously the comment section is great for this. One thing that came out of the men's meet, David Marsh not returning to the program next year, going more into a consulting role with his, I believe, down in San Diego, as well as working with programs independently. And I mean, I didn't realize this. He was living in North Carolina, so he was literally only commuting there a couple days a week. And man, I'd love to have that kind of that kind of flexibility. But so David's stepping away, so it'll be interesting to see who they hire in that position. Um, a criticism that came out was that with the rise of the women, the men kind of took a hit a little bit this year. You're never going to sustain dominance and excellence. Even Eddie had down years at Texas. I mean, he just hit him better than everybody else. But I think it's a good sign for college swimming when I'll call it a blue blood program because they've won national championships. When a program like Cal is on the upswing, and they eked out the fourth place finish. I think on the last, I think the relay was what did it. They jumped Tennessee at the very end there. So to get some hardware.
Yeah, it's people don't realize how tough it is, when you're coaching both programs, the women and the men, just how hard it is to get them both to pop, uh, because they're just radically different teams, and, the meets may be the same, and they're both at NCAAs, but I know Jack Bowerly, when I coached with him at Georgia, used to talk about it all the time, saying just how hard it was to get both sides, to really put on, a the kind of performance you needed at NCAAs, which means no sessions off. You can't have that clunker of a session, uh, no DQs, that kind of thing. And I think, I'm not surprised that, one of the Cal programs really got going.
Yeah, and I think the one thing too, you look at those Power Four programs, they all have pro groups on top of it. So not only are you juggling your two college programs, you're trying to juggle your pro athletes as well. And I mean, you see it more with smaller programs, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO, one coach overseeing the whole program. And not that they do a better job of balancing it, but man, uh, it, the days of separate head coaches are starting to trend away. I think I can't even think of the last any of the programs that are still separate in the Power Four level. Michigan combined several years ago. Stanford. I think that's it. I mean, really. I mean, if you think about it, of the Power Four programs, Stanford's one of the last ones that has separate coaches. So you really have to have a great staff to help you navigate those pitfalls. So,
Lot of management, lot of lot of management.
no doubt. And I talked with a Division 1 Power Four coach not too long ago with NIL, the transfer portal, all of that stuff. These coaches are becoming CEOs more than they are head coaches anymore, and it's taking them off the pool deck in a lot of cases. Um, I know she just announced her retirement. Mandy Commons DeSalle at Cincinnati. Mandy was the president of the CSCA, so she's getting pulled in that direction. She's getting pulled by her team, and at the time, Cincinnati was transitioning to the Big 12. So now your recruiting is changing as well. So these coaches, man, somebody made a comment. They get paid really well to do their jobs. Yeah, but the amount of hours you put in to doing everything well and doing it right, I don't know. You're getting paid. You need that Rick Pitino money out there, and we know we're not seeing that in swimming. So, mentioned Stanford. Stanford women, huge year. Lucy Bell, Tori Husk coming up huge. Tori with the 100 butterfly, 50 free, 100 free. Lucy IMs and breaststrokes. But one of the things that is kind of a concern for Stanford and that coaching staff for the women, they got to reload. A third of their roster was seniors this year. A third. That is some major points at the conference and the NCAA level. And again, you're losing a Lucy Bell and an Olympic gold medalist like Tori Husk. How do these programs bounce back from that? Again, Stanford has the name. I mean, you know that, but it's still that's a lot for them to overcome.
It's always interesting when there's a coaching change, how that the program's gonna perform, especially in year one. And then it's interesting to watch as the program and the members on the team kind of turn over from folks who were there. Uh, Obviously, like with Greg, and now let's see who Coach Chris brings in and how it flows from there. It's going to be interesting to watch. Because that's another thing that's not it's not an easy transition, to do that.
No,
You
and
gotta
I
get
mean, you go
anytime you have a new coach coming in, you it's hard to get that total buy-in, in that first year. There's so much going on, there's just not enough time, uh, to do everything that you'd like to do, and put your hands or your prints all over the program. Um, so it's gonna be interesting to see how that flows.
Yeah, and I mean, you go from Tori Husk, who 60 points, Lucy Bell, 57 points. The third highest scorer on the Stanford roster was Caroline Bricker, and she got 27 points for the team. Obviously, we're not counting relays on this, but that's a big drop off that you've got to replace. So right off the bat, 107 points, not counting relays, is right out the door. And um, phew, I don't know. Again, it's Stanford. They're going to pull the recruits, and hopefully they can stay in this level, because the next team we need to talk about is the youth movement that is the University of Tennessee. I mean, looking at the roster that they have, I mean, it's mostly underclassmen that performed this year at NCAA's. I think their highest score was Camille Spink, who had a second and a third place finish, scored 43 points, was third in the 50, second on the 400 medley relay. She was the anchor for it, fifth in the 100 freestyle, and then sixth in the 200 freestyle. And so right there, she's scoring um, 43 points individually. Ella Jansen right behind her. And the recruiting class that Tennessee has coming right now is bonkers. You're picking up Charlotte Crush out of Louisville, Kentucky, one of the top swimmers. Oh God, who else did I see earlier on the women's side? They've got like three of the top 25 recruits in the country. They picked up a girl from Canada. You got Leah Tigert from Ontario, Mia Buff from Bowling Green. My good, I'm looking at this and their power indexes. It's insane. Molly Sweeney, huge one out of Carmel. So Coach Credit's got it going on down there, and he's another one who's kind of taken some criticism from a coaching standpoint, like, oh, they don't step up at NCAA's. They stepped up at NCAA's. I just think for them this year it was the lack of experience, because they were relying on so many freshmen and sophomores, and that really kind of hindered a few things. But man, you've got Ella Jansen, Mackenzie Soroki, Camille Spink, all coming back for him next year. Jansen with a huge sub 4 minute 400 IM. So and then God, I think what else? She was 141 2 free, I think, on a relay leadoff for him. So, and Soroki was huge in the 100 breaststroke, coming in. I think she was second in finals for that. So Tennessee, Coach Credits, you know him well from your days of coaching in the volunteer state. So
We actually go back way before that. We literally started coaching together.
wow.
I was in Chapel Hill and he was in Durham, and we both just gotten out of college, and both got into the coaching world. Both of the head coaches of the clubs we were working with all of a sudden, uh, for whatever reason, left to do something else, and both of us became head coaches of a club program as well as working with the college program at the age of 23. We used to actually do some combined practices every once in a while, and we bonded a pretty good friendship there. It was really exciting to watch them race. Boy, they weren't playing around. That first session, boom, they're first in the 400 IF. Boom, first in the 100 breast, sixth in the 100 fly. They were not playing around. They made quite a statement that morning. And now, and we'll get into this later, but with no beat heat, the mornings are the mornings are the meat. I mean, the mornings always were the meat. Now they're really all.
I always told athletes, and I still will to this day, Prelims are finals. No question about it. Your prelims are your finals. Finals are for scoring. Those are determine the medals. But man, if you're not setting yourself up, and he did, you're right. That first individual session, man, they came out swinging. And they needed to. As we mentioned, they didn't have a whole lot of kids there. They had 13 girls and only six. They finished fourth with only six girls, or yeah, girls scoring. That's awesome. That just shows incredible. And again, by far the number one recruiting class next year. On Swim Swam, or on Swim Cloud, I think Swim Swam probably has them at the top as well. Looking at the talent that they have, it's gonna be exciting down in Rocky Top for sure.
Yes, it is. It's great to see. It's great to see.
So, biggest risers from the meet, we just talked about him. For me, it's Tennessee. It's a youth movement that's only getting better. Who do you feel is the big riser for the women's meet right now?
I mean, you got to look at, Pittsburgh had a tremendous meet, tremendous meet. Both sides, they had great meets.
Yes,
You got to look at them and their performance they put on. I will say he was pretty darn impressive. Pretty darn impressive.
absolutely. And that goes kind of into my the next part is my biggest surprise. It's Pitt, 100%. This is a team, what, before Coach Kreitler, I hope I'm saying his name right there, before Chase got there, and he's from that Dave Durden tree. He was the associate head
Yeah.
coach out at Cal. That's actually when Dave Marsh took hold. So it's 3 or 4 years ago. He took over a Pitt program that I think we both can agree was in need of some retooling, and he has just killed it especially on the women's side. I think they scored a relay for the first time 2 years ago, and now they've got All Americans. They've had great performances up and down the card. Again, another team that's on the rise with Claire Jansen and Sydney Gring, who were scoring individual points for them. 5 women, they finished 16th. People are going to hear that if they don't know the sport. Oh, you finished 16th. Well, you scored 0 points and had no qualifiers 4 years ago. I'll take a 16th place finish at the NCAA Division I National Championships. I don't know about you. And if you look at some of the teams that they beat, UCLA, traditional power, LSU, North Carolina, Auburn, Texas A&M, Arizona. These are names that are traditionally top 15 programs, and they're winning. They're beating them. I don't know if that they actually had more than. I think they may have only had. I don't think they had all 5 relays that competed. I'm pretty sure on that. To score that many points, to have that opportunity, hats off to Coach Chase and the Pitt Panthers.
Yeah, they are really impressive. I'm not sure if it was a surprise, but one thing that I really enjoyed watching from afar was the battle between Stanford and Texas. See,
Yes.
Virginia was way out in front, but Stanford and Texas, they were going toe to toe the entire time. Texas got off to such a great start, winning the mile, getting 8th in the mile as well, 2nd in the 800 free relay. They were off really hot. Then Stanford fires back, the Tori Husk and Lucy Bell show. And it just goes, I think it was 3, 4 points, 5 points, whatever. Super, super close over that many sessions of just battle after battle after battle. That's 2 big time programs with great coaching staffs, really doing a good job. And it seemed to me too that they were both kind of making their own fun in the morning sessions on the deck. They seem to be having a good time, and with the way things are now, you got to do that. You got to get a little extra espresso or something in your coffee, whatever,
Oh yeah.
because you're asleep at the wheel in the morning. It really hurts you now.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look, you mentioned the battle between Stanford and Texas. It ended up being a 4-point difference between the two. And then if you look at 4th, 5th, and 6th, It was a difference of 8 points. Again, 296, Tennessee 301 and a half, and then Cal at 303. So it was a point and a half for Cal to get the hardware. Michigan right in there in that hunt for that fourth place finish as well. Yeah, it that was you got to love those, man. You got to love meets that aren't complete blowouts, and we'll talk about that on the men's side. Biggest letdown of the meet for me. Again, my biggest letdown we're talking about in length later, but honestly, the Big Ten conference as a whole. If you look at it, yes, Michigan was sixth, Indiana was seventh, Ohio State was 12th, Wisconsin 13th. USC's and I always forget USC is in the big and UCLA are Big Ten now, 14th, and UCLA was 20th with Minnesota 16th. Yeah, okay, those are good performances, but Michigan 2 season best times, um, Ohio State 3 uh, season best personal best, Wisconsin 4, and out of all the swims that they had, they beat themselves up to get to the meet, and then I hate to say the underperform because I don't want to. I don't that it sounds mean to the athletes and to the coaches because I know the time and effort they put in. Plus, there's a Big Ten coach I have great ties to. I don't want him hearing this and torching me later, but I think the Big Ten conference is one of those that's got to figure it out from that transition from conference from the championships meet to nationals. And so again, I'm a Big Ten homer. I'm from Ohio. I was born and raised. So I think that to me was kind of a letdown. I was hoping for a little bit more for some of the programs, but
The Big Ten conference meet is such a dogfight uh, on the women's side every year.
yes,
Some years it makes you more battle tested and makes you harder. In other years, it kind of takes a little of your wind out of your sails. It takes a little of the fight out of you to have to get back up and perform that way again because winning a Big Ten championship is a big deal. It's a very big deal. Um, Obviously, the NCAA's is a big deal too. So yeah, that's one of the arts of coaching and finding that way to get them to replicate or even improve those performances. Because especially in the women's meet, if you replicated your performance, you were moving up from where you were on the site sheet for sure.
absolutely. And I think one of the things for me that has always been, and you're seeing it with the SEC and the ACC, they have their championships. I think the week before Big Ten for the women and for
Yeah,
the men in both
yeah.
cases. They're doing that combined meet now for both those conferences as well. I think the SEC stretched it out to a 5-day meet. I don't know that I like that, but having that extra week to kind of build back up and allow yourself to get into a situation where you can kind of adjust that fine tuning, taper, rest, whatever people call it now. I see it as beneficial. I don't know that the coaches are going to or the conference is going to make that decision because obviously now you're talking about contracts with facilities, but it may be something that they need to consider.
But the Big Ten will be back. There is way too many talented athletes and way too many great coaches and great coaching staffs. They'll be back.
Yep, 100%. My biggest takeaway from the meet, it's UVA's world and everybody's got to catch up. And I think you can talk about how great of a recruiting class that Todd DeSorbo was able to put in and year out. When you got you go from Cade Douglas to Alex Walsh to Kate Walsh, but he's developing talent. Anna Mosh has emerged as a major player. I think Katie Grimes is still trying to find her feet there. At that program, Leah Hayes as well. They've all stepped up big. Amy Canny. Now they've got Sarah Curtis, who has just been outstanding for them. Um, Again, it's UVA's world, man, and we're spectators.
Yes, they do obviously get incredibly talented females uh, going there, but there is also a ton of development. They're not just resting on their laurels. There's a ton of development there going on, and as long as that train keeps going like that, they're going to be tough to beat.
What was your biggest takeaway from this meet?
It's funny looking at the 2 meets and this being the first year, I thought there was less impact from, the mid-majors and the women's meet as opposed to the men's meet. It seemed like there were far less, folks getting in by winning their conference and then making the time needed to qualify. So the comment that I got from a lot of coaches were like, "Yeah, it's there's not that big of a change, obviously, aside from, uh, the B heats and everything, um, but it's not like a huge impact, in year 1 of the mid-majors." I'm sure that, that trend will probably, change as if we keep with this format, but that was one of the big takeaways in really looking and studying the results.
Yeah, I think if you look at the mid majors, the highest scoring mid major programs, University of Nevada, Reno, shout out Wolfpack. I was the assistant coach there for 3 years, so special place in my heart. Scarlett Ferris, huge backstroke performer for them. And then the University of Akron, Brian Parisi, who has done an amazing job at Akron for years. I think he's up to like 14 or 12 or 14 championships in 13 years in the Mid American Conference. They were 33rd, and then you have Penn was in there, Fresno State, Indiana State scoring their first points ever, as well as UC San Diego, who was just Division two like 6 or 7 years ago. University of North Texas. Shout out to Coach Brittany Roth down there. I had the pleasure of working with Brittany while she was an athlete at Sugar Creek Swim Club. I'm going to name drop every chance I get. I'm doing it. But then you did have some of the other schools, Miami of Ohio, UC Santa Barbara, Navy, Northern Colorado making an appearance. Yeah, Florida International, Ohio. I mean, you've got a lot. I think there were a lot of teams represented there. Like you mentioned, they just did not have the point scoring um, impact that the men did, and I think there's a lot of reasons as to why. Ball State, Ball State, which men's program nearly got eliminated a couple about 15, 20 years ago. So Baltimore County, Delaware had a swimmer there. So, and we can talk about that in a little while as well. So I'm excited to see more and more mid-major programs because I think that's going to be very healthy for the sport. But we got to see more of an impact points wise, like, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and on the men's meet, some of the mid majors they had, I think, a little bit more seasoned athletes who have maybe some international experience, etc. in the men's meet. So uh, going from their conference meet to the NC2As wasn't quite as big a jump, I think, for the women's programs. Uh, it's just a whole new world of going from your conference meet uh to NCAAs. All of a sudden you're a one person team.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you're used to having your whole crew with you cheering you on, pumping you up and everything. It's a different vibe when you're going. It's just you and the coach and the trainers and maybe a sports info staff or something like that with you.
Agree. So as we talked about it, let's move on to the men's meet. You had the opportunity to be at the men's meet. So you got you got to hear all the chants and got to see all the teams and I'm sure talking with some people there that you've known from your time coaching at both the club and at Penn State. Texas going back to back and three straight national championships for Bob Bowman, one at Arizona State, now two at Texas. But this, we talk about the men or the women was kind of a blowout by Virginia. Sorry. This, on the other hand, this was not the case for the men.
No, it wasn't. It's wild. At one point on the last day, I believe Florida was in the lead. Uh, with the way things shook out. And you got Ray losing Indiana just throwing haymakers after, just keeping on chopping wood, swim after swim, race after race. Really, really doing a great job in that morning session to get their opportunities for points. They weren't going anywhere. And then you got Arizona State practically sweeping the relays. which we all know, yeah, double points. That's
Yep.
big time stuff. So, very exciting across the board there, in the men's meet. Uh, lots of point counting.
Absolutely. And Herbie Beam, I hope I'm saying that right, doing a great job out at Arizona State with that sprint crew. And we'll talk about them in just a little bit, but man, it was, I mean, you had Florida and Texas slugging it out. You had Indiana and Arizona State going for battling for third, and then for fifth, you've got Tennessee, NC State hammering it out. And then from an individual standpoint, Koch and Leendo just dominating. And I'm not saying they took their prelims easy, but Leendo was dropping some of the most relaxed looking 40-point 100 freestyles or well, and he went what 42 high in preliminaries on the 100 fly and then said, "No, nah, I'm going to top that." Like, what the hell is this all about? Uh,
Yeah, I don't even think, and Coach, his morning swim, he wasn't even in a seated heat.
yep,
Um, and it's almost like an age group uh meet. The giant age grouper against all the little kids was way out in front. Uh those morning sessions, I mean, just the racing was so tight. But in that one particular heat, it was blowout city. You knew who was going to win.
100%. I you love it when there's stars that come out of a meet. You Tori Husk in the women's meet, Claire Weinstein, the freshman phenom that everybody was looking at. Um, on the men's side, you've got Koch and Leendo who battled it out in the 100 fly. They went at each other in that. And behind all that, you've got Haroon. Sorry, I always pronounce the K. Haroon right behind him, and Rex Maurer. So you had these stars that were coming out on the men's side, and we talk about the freshmen, Thomas Heilman and Maximus Williamson for Virginia. The freshman guys for UVA showing out. If there's ever been a group that has had a bigger group of haters in their life in the comment section on websites, it's the UVA men and Todd DeSorbo in general. Because he's got this great recruiting class. What's he going to do with it? Did their point total 10 times over. Williamson with 2 national championships on his own. Heilman, great performances in both his butterflies. Um, God, you gotta love the youth movement. It gives you some excitement. Then you had Jawadi from Florida winning the 500 pretty much from the jump, and then finishing second in the mile to give Florida some of that the points that they need to stay in contention. So I'm loving the UVA youth movement, and I mean they were actually missing one of their highly touted freshmen this year due to injury. So it'll be exciting to get him back next year.
It was exciting to watch. I wasn't surprised by that because, uh, with my high school and club ties and ties to the national junior team, for the U.S., I've been keeping an eye on those guys for a while now, and they did not disappoint. Uh, and I was laughing because when Maximus swam the 200 free out of lane 8, I'm like, he's got a good chance to steal this thing. I was telling anybody who would listen, I'm like, he's got a good chance to steal this thing, and sure enough, he did. Um,
And that
I
was
don't think,
only after a teammate, because he tied for eighth with a teammate,
yeah,
stepped aside and gave him the opportunity. And for a fact, if that had been any other team in the pool that had somebody tied with them, Williamson swimming a second 200 that morning, and that means it's a third one at night. So that would have impacted his performance in that 200 freestyle. So shout out to, I mean, that's a culture thing from a UVA standpoint. That is 100% culture, because I think it was David King had every right to say, we're racing this because I'm the upperclassman, and he didn't, and that's what's awesome.
and that's or maybe he was just like, man, that hurt pretty bad. I think I got a big race coming up tomorrow. That I want to be firing on all cylinders for.
Well, and I think as well, if I remember correctly, they had one of the relays that night. Well, they had the 2 free relay, so, even in that session, because I don't think that yeah, UVA was not in the top 8, so they weren't swimming in finals, so both those guys had to come back and be on that 200 freestyle relay, so if they had both had to do a 2 free, depending on the timing of when it was gonna be placed, the one of those 2 things was gonna be impacted for sure. Arizona State coming out 4 relay wins, the swim for the Sun Devils, just showing off that sprint prowess. Phew. And they built it mainly with upperclassmen. They had 2 grad transfers, Fabiani, who came over from Cal Baptist, and then Adam Cheney, who was at Florida, still had a 5th year that he could use. So he was good to go there. But Arizona State, again, speed kills in college swimming, man. Speed kills.
Yeah, it Adam Cheney, again, watching him and, over the years, whether he's having an awesome meet individually, or a disappointing meet individually, or somewhere in between, that guy is going to be money on relays. And once again, he was, what a pickup he was. And what I was thoroughly impressed with, um, was it's clear to me that, the way that they've practiced and done the repetition, uh, relative to the little things that impact relays so much. You know, they were fearless on the relay starts. They were fearless, and in my mind, I was watching all the reactions, etc., and uh, I like to say that they were perfect. They were like kind of between point oh 0.08 and 0.12, fast, but not giving the coach a heart attack, right? And that had, and they were fearless on those relays, uh, relative to the changeovers and just attacking the walls and the finishes. The people don't realize that oftentimes a false start is caused by the person in the water, not the person going by having a bad finish. There was no hesitation from the ASU guys, because they knew that their teammate was going to finish and finish properly, allowing them to really just let it loose on the start. And um, that's something that I just really love to see. And they jumped off, being able to watch it. It just jumped off the page to me.
Right, and I think you hit it on the head. They trusted the people in the water. Johnny Kulo, obviously, with a massive anchor for their 200 free relay or 200 medley relay. Karoon with one of the only other person that could have gone that fast on that was Leendo. Karoon was 18.7 on the 2 medley relay. Or sorry, Haroon. I always screw that up. And Leendo had to go Mach 1 on the tail end as a freestyler. I don't know, maybe if you put him butterfly, they got a shot, but I mean, that was still a great relay for Florida, but Arizona State, again, speed kills at the college level, and we're seeing even on the international level, and with the Olympics in 2028, the 50s a stroke. It's got some people thinking about coming back. Abby Weitzel just got back in the water, and it's going to give it Ryan Murphy training for that, so you never know. But
As they
Florida
should.
stepping,
Why not?
absolutely. Florida stepping it up in the distance events with major performances from Lynn Shear, Hafnadi, Jawadi, Hafnadi, Anthony Nesty, and that distance crew getting it done down there at Florida.
Yes. I'll tell you what, that mile between, Sarkimi and Giovanni was that, I'm going to date myself here, but that was the thrill in Manila. That was Ollie Frazier. Those guys looked at each other and looked at each other, and the second one started to get a little bit ahead. No, no, no. The other one would come right back. And it just seemed to me that uh, that my man from Tunisia was loading up for that last 50. 22 crazy 7, with about a 45 beat kick on the end of that race. That was one of the most fun races I've seen in a long, long time. Uh, and it's cool because a mile the sprints are awesome, but they're done so fast. Um, the mile, boy, you have plenty of time to watch the story develop and watch it, you know, and watch them both, here's their strategy, etc. And yeah, they went toe to toe. It was an incredible race to watch. I was watching that race with a guy I used to coach who got eighth back in the day, and I think he went like 15:06 or whatever and got eighth. He's like, man, this dude's beat me by a minute almost.
Yeah, 1508 would have gotten you 28th this year. That just gives you
Yeah,
an idea. And I think lost in all of this, I mean, again, great battle in that mile. The 500, Havnawi going out after it as well, and leading basically start to finish. Um,
yeah,
Levi Sandage from University of Kentucky. That's a kid whose name has always been there in the 1650. But again, it's lost in the fact that Florida gets first, fourth, fifth, and for good measure, they picked up 14th place points. So major league, and obviously we talked about it in years ago with the Olympics with when Caleb, I think it was 2021, you had Caleb Dressel, Kieran Perkins, and Bobby Fink for the US. That those were our freestylers, and they all came from the University of Florida. So and then this year freestyle wise, you've got Jawadi, Ashley Endo. Great work down there for the Gators. And then we got to talk about the one, I don't want to call it the elephant in the room, but the one, the sore thumb that sticks out, the Cal Bears, 7th this year, just beating out Michigan for that spot. And we talked about the rise of the women. Well, it's rebuild mode now in Berkeley for Cal.
yes. I mean, the breaststroke races were awesome. Spook come from behind swims, both of them. But aside from that, the Cal contingent, which is a great group and is as spirited a group as you're ever going to see at the NCAAs and swimming at the NCAAs and in any sport. They show up. They show up out in force. It was one of the quieter times that I've seen out of them. But they'll be back. They'll be
Yeah,
back.
I, I,
That
I agree.
ain't that about it.
Yeah. Again, we sustained dominance is incredibly hard to do. And I think somebody said the last time they finished out of the top five, or I think it was 2007, they were eighth.
Yeah.
That's a heck of a run right there. And Coach Durden's going to figure it out. He's going to get that balance between the men and the women.
Yeah, and again, it's like I was saying before about the women's meet, where Cal had a pretty awesome meet. It really did a nice job. It's so tough to really hit both meets. It's just so tough.
So, biggest risers from the meet, the team that I hate calling the biggest riser because we knew it was coming was UVA. It was the Virginia Cavalier men. Um, Shout out to the Heilmans, both Matthew and Thomas. Thomas, the freshman, Matthew, a senior. Um, uh, Matthew was on the 400 medley relay. UVA didn't even have a 2 medley relay, and they finished ninth. That is but shout out to both those young men for their performances and with the Cavaliers. Both of them, if I read the story correctly, lost their mother not too long ago. That youth movement at Virginia is just massive. Last year, I think somebody said they scored 16 points. And this year, now it's 192. So over tenfold with 6 guys. And only 4 of them scored individually. David King, Jack Aikens, you've got Heilman and Williamson, who we've talked about. Spencer Nichols was at the meet, as well as Bellotti. So they're going to continue to recruit, but DeSorbo is starting to put it together with those men. And if you believe the dirt sheets, I mean, they're going to pick up some transfers. We know that. I mean, Todd's not afraid of that portal, as none of the coaches are right now. And we've seen some big names show up recently in the portal. But that for me, that was my biggest riser.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. Speaking of hitting in big risers and hitting the meet on both sides, shout out to Michigan. I mean, they had a really good meet on the women and, 121 and a half points more in the men. They were constantly there, third, fourth, just, body shots, hammering away, putting up points. Uh, no sessions off. That's what I was impressed with them, and I was so impressed with Indiana as well. That they just kept coming. They just kept coming. Um, they weren't winning a ton of things, but man, they were putting people. They were getting that seventh or eighth instead of ninth. They did both those squads did a really good job.
I think the one thing that surprised everybody, at least for me, for Indiana, and not my biggest surprise, but the thing that surprised me, Indiana got like 4 points from diving. That's it.
Yes, that
But
shocked me too.
but
That shocked
like
me.
Cal, the Cal Bears,
Right.
who sometimes people forget they do have diving. Cal Bears scored more diving points than Indiana. Mark that on a calendar because that's never happening again. And if Indiana has the diving prowess that they've had in recent years with guys like Copa Bianco and that crew that came through, I'm not saying that Texas isn't winning, but that's a three-way race now.
Big time.
That's a Florida, Texas, Indiana race. Coach Luz will get it figured out. Drew Johansson, the one of, if not the best in the game. Although some people would prefer he not do any more open letters. But that being said, I mean that was the biggest kind of thing that held them back. I think Luke Whitlock is another one that he's going to figure out more short course yards. Obviously, he was an Olympian for the U.S. in meters. And Aaron Shackle being an underclassman as well. Yeah, but I think you hit the nail on the head on that one with IU is that they just kept coming, especially that last eighth, putting 3 in the A final in the 200 IM. Man,
Yeah,
that was massive.
that was very impressive, the way they handled things at the end of the meet, and that's a testament to the work that they do and the focus that they have. Um,
100%.
no sessions off. They were able to come at it and come at it every single day, which is, at that meet is easier said than done.
Agreed. My biggest surprise from the meet, and we talked about it not happening in the women, but we definitely got to talk about it happening in the men. The mid majors taking advantage. You got Princeton, who huge performances for them, but then you throw in Army, Yale, Delaware, IU, Indianapolis, scoring points. Cal Baptist, Loyola. These are all programs that, I mean, yeah, some of them weren't scoring points, but their names were there. LaSalle. Um,
Yeah.
you've never seen them at or if you saw them at a national championship, it's been a long time. Drexel being there, Cal State Bakersfield, a program that is in serious upheaval, a whole department that's in upheaval for various reasons. UW Milwaukee, and they're taking advantage. And I said University of South Dakota had their first national qualifier. Florida Atlantic, Wyoming, GW, Dartmouth, U of I, Chicago was there. I think they were there for diving though, but I'm not sure on that. One of the things, I mean, we talked about it, them taking advantage. I see this happening more. This is my prediction because of the automatic qualifiers, the AQs, and we're going to talk about that a little later. You're going to see more men than women because the money's not going to be there on the guys. You're going to see more men going to mid-major programs. They're going to show out, and then they're going to get the opportunity to transfer to a Power Four program. But
I think you're right.
if I'm
I
a guy
think
who's going to be 17th or 18th on a Texas or a Stanford or a Michigan or Ohio State roster, and there's a chance that I might not make the line, but I can go to South Dakota or UW Milwaukee or Miami of Ohio and make that cut
yeah.
and get the automatic qualifier. For me, on the guys, that's a no brainer. For the women, I think it's a little less so. But man, I would take full advantage of that personally.
I think you're right about that. And I had the pleasure of being at the A10s, watching my stepdaughter who swims for George Washington. Shout out Coach Chico. And she had a real good first year with Chico, and watching that meet, and just the excitement of yes, you have these exciting races for the conference championship, but then everybody's like, what's the cut? What's the cut? What's the cut? Because it is so new, and it's not it's not one of those cuts that's, snap your fingers because it's been basically the same thing for a couple years. That new part was super exciting. Like GW had a boy who had an unbelievable 100 backstroke in the morning, made the cut easy, but you got to make it at night, at the conference meets or it doesn't count. Um, and and I know Chico was like, I hope he can do it again. Yeah, and luckily he did, and made it to the big dance. But it's so fun. It adds some more juice to their conference meets, as well.
Agreed.
Um,
There is the opportunity now for these programs to be in a situation where in the past February your season was over. You knew
yep.
that. That's not the case anymore. There's the light at the end of the tunnel. And if you talk to the purists and the hardcore fans, they hate it. We should have the fastest swimmers there. I'm not disagreeing with you, but are the top 68 basketball teams in the NCAA tournament every year? They're not. And Greg Earhart, when he was the executive director of the CSCA, maybe it was during the transition between him and Sam. Um, Man, he had some incredible data to support the automatic qualifying. And the biggest thing that they took from talking to mid-major, talking to all athletic directors, is essentially this. Your soccer team wins a mid-major conference, let's say the A10s or the Patriot League. They go off and they're going to play North Carolina in round one, or they're going to play Notre Dame, or in softball, they're going to play um, Oklahoma. They're going to get smoked. They know they're going to get smoked, but they made the NCAA tournament. And for those athletic directors, when they have to decide, am I dropping softball or am I dropping swimming? Those decisions get made. I shout out to all those coaches. I know you've had this past year you worked with LaSalle, and we talked about their 200 butterflyer, Felix Jedbrat. Man, fly and die, man. Boy, bring on that piano. And but I
A
mean,
man forgot how many laps he was supposed to swim. You
yeah, it
gotta
wasn't
let race.
150. It's not 6 lengths, it's 8. But I mean, still dropped time. He dropped
Yeah,
a half a second, going
yeah,
141
conference
2.
records. Yeah,
And 4 years ago, that's potentially a top 8 time. Jeez,
yes,
I
it is.
mean, good lord. I mean, we were texting while you were there. 39.8 did not make a top 8 swim. 140.4 didn't score.
And
Yeah.
it's all the way you're so used to the top 16 making it back. Yes, you certainly want to be in the finals, but if you are in consoles tonight, you're still scoring, etc., and you are still scoring in the current format. But wow, it was a whole different spin on things of how you'd be like, oh, they're probably going to such and such is probably going to be safe at this time, and then you realize, oh, there's still 2 heats to go. I mean, uh, the morning sessions were wild at that meet, just wild. Uh, the razor sharp, or razor thin, I mean, uh, difference between, getting a night swim and not.
If you think about it, Thomas Heilman for Virginia, we've talked about him already. 139.2. He goes a half a second slower. He's out of finals.
Yeah. Yep.
That's and he was third. He was the third seed. That's how this
Mhm.
meet has become.
Yeah.
My biggest letdown from this meet, and it's no fault of him, no Luca Orlando. That kid kind of hopefully whatever injury he's facing, he overcomes it. But man, have we ever known a swimmer in USA swimming history that has been, or college swimming that has been bitten by the injury bug as badly as Luca Orlando?
And he's a great guy too. I had a couple, national junior team trips, and a boy who used to coach had the unenviable task on their memory relays of replacing Luca, and yeah, he looked a little scared behind the blocks having to do that. Shout out Drew Hitchcock, you did great. But yeah, it's so sad because he's pretty special. He's real special in the short pool. Um, and we've seen him do some incredible things.
Him and Haroon going at it in the two fly was a thing I think all of us really,
Yeah.
really wanted to see more than anything. And Heilman had a great race against Haroon. Tyler Ray was in that mix as well in the finals. But man, hopefully whatever it is, he's able to recover and get back into long course season as they make the push for 2028. Um, for you, was there any letdown from the meet? That looked like it was just an exciting meet all the way around.
Very, very exciting. No, no letdowns. No letdowns. I didn't see any glaring ones. Sure, Cal wasn't up to the normal standard that they have, but they'll be back. Sure as we're both sitting here, they'll be back. So, aside from that, just exciting, exciting swimming across the board. It was so exciting. Again, that mile was one of the most fun races I've ever seen, and I've been doing this for 30 some odd years. So um, just incredible swimming going on.
I think that race and the other one to me, that was another major one, the 500 freestyle. You had Sakani, Maurer, Juwadi, Hafnawi who led start to finish. Those four just going at each other. Yeah, I'm excited to see where things go. My biggest takeaway from this meet, and people can argue with me, this is a hot take. I do not see a clear favorite for next year in terms of the team race. Texas is losing a lot. Arizona State is losing a ton. Um, Florida's losing a lot. What we're going to see, we're going to have a better idea of who's the favorite for this meet once all the chaos with the transfer portal is now up and over. Because, I mean, we've seen as it stands right now, there's already some major names. You've got the breaststroker from Michigan, the 200 flyer from Minnesota. He's in the portal. The sprinter from
$3
Pitt.
from Pitt. Yeah.
There's another one that's hit the portal. Just came across the wire. Nick Simmons entered. It was a grad transfer. I thought we were done with those. I didn't think that was a thing anymore. So you've got Simmons of Tennessee. He's going to enter the portal as well. So you've already got four major players. I will be interested when Swim Swam puts out their updated portal listing. There was already some major names post conference, but post NCAA's, that's going to be another major one. I don't think there's a clear favorite. Yeah, Texas is going to be the usual suspects. IU's the one right now. If they can land some of these guys as transfers, man, and they figure out their diving, sure, I wouldn't want to swim Ray loose next year.
They'll have it ready, that's for sure. It's funny, you had the transfers, and then there's still a lot of international folks out there, a lot of international folks. Uh, it was funny. So when I was at Penn State, we actually had a night where uh, we had a boy win a Big Ten championship at the breaststroke, and another guy got second in the backstroke, and our administrator who came to the meet with us was there, and we were talking, and he said, or this is what I said to him. I just leaned over and I said, "You don't see many John Smiths or Mark Davises or Fred Johnsons up there on the scoreboard, do you?" And he's like, "No." And this guy, he Penn State, he's from football world, right?
Yeah.
Um, and big time. And he was like, "Well, I thought the United States was, the power at the Olympics. It seems like we always win the gold medals and all this stuff." And I'm like, relative to other countries, yes, we are the big bad power in the world. But if you put the whole world against us, the whole world would stomp us. And that's what's going on relative to recruiting and enticing folks to come partake in NCAA swimming, which is it's a lot different than what they've been exposed to, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
One of the things that the biggest criticism of the rise of the international swimming in the NCAA, um, or college swimming in general. Okay. I know this. I coached in the NAIA. I had a very a deep international group. I always have. I hear it all the time. American dollars for American athletes. Okay, I'm not against that. But at the end of the day, when you're talking Power Four, when you're talking Texas and Arizona State, win. That's the only word, that the three-letter word. That's all departments want. If we're going to invest money into your program, if we're going to give you 8 assistant coaches, if we're going to give you this massive budget so you can fly out to the West Coast and swim Cal in a dual meet if you're Florida or whatever, win. And at the end of the day, go get that talent. And if it's American, great. If it's international, great. Win. And I had a parent argue with me one time. This was over soccer. It wasn't over swimming. It was over soccer. Do you know that one school has their starting 11? There's 9 of them who are internationals. I said, yeah, and they made the NCAA Division I tournament and ended up finishing in the top 8. I think he figured it out. He goes, well, you should take lesser talent and develop it. These coaches don't get that kind of time.
No, no, they don't. It's a quick 4 years. It
Yep.
it goes by fast.
Yep.
Um, and, I was always amazed in talking and kinda doing surveys, etcetera, of international, swimmers. I'm like, be like, "Okay, so how many of you came here sight unseen?" And it's more often than not, they raise their hand, because it's all about the coaches developing relationships, and, they hear of somebody from their homeland having a good experience at a place, well, then that's the place they go. Uh, Heck, I had back in the day at Baylor School, I had a guy named, he was a pretty good NCAA swimmer, Martin Grotzky. Uh
Mm-hmm.
who came over from Germany. And when he visited, I kept on asking him, "So what are your times again?" He would tell me. And I leaned over to my assistant coach and be like, "Man, this guy's way better than, than his times. We got something here." He went on to win NCAA's 2 years in a row in the mile. And not in 14:10, granted, 14:12 or whatever, but I gave him the advice of, hey, there's at the time, knowing his temperament, etc. I was like, there's only one place you need to go. And that's the University of Georgia. Coach Harvey Humphreys will take care of you. You'll have a great experience. And he was like, "Coach, you haven't done me wrong yet, so if that's where you tell me that's where you go." That's the only place he visited. That's where he ended up going. It's interesting how the relationship component ends up impacting. It impacts with all the recruits, right? But especially with the internationals.
And definitely at the Division I level for those kids, those athletes. I hate calling them kids, but because a lot of them end up being 19 or 20 years old because of gap years. But I think the big one too is that they're going because of the relationships they built with the coaches. Um, and you hear the argument, you need to pick the school for the academics, not because of the coach, because that coach could be gone. Um, you wouldn't be looking at that school if it wasn't for the coach and the relationship you built. The academics, yes, they're important, no question about it, and no one's taking that away. But you built a relationship with a coach, and I am personally seeing that firsthand, because of my change and where I am at as a coach. That those relationships, they transcend those 4 years, absolutely. So I
And
think
what's funny is now with the transferring ability and everything, if you don't like it, guess what? You can see something better, you can go.
bye.
Where Yeah, you're not chained down to a place for 4 years anymore. So it's a two-way street. Yes, coaches can go or whatever, but now the student athletes can go as well.
Right. All right, so let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, the new format. My God, have we ever seen anything in the history of college swimming cause more upheaval? And full transparency, full transparency to anybody listening. I was a member of the CSCA board of directors when these initial talks of changing formats or potentially changing dates. I'm telling you right now, they're not done with changes. And they're obviously they're taking in everything and 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 going to make some adjustments for next year. But I was on the board of directors, so I got to see this firsthand. I want to say this first and foremost to anybody who's listening. Anybody who's taking shots directly at Sam Barony, the executive director of the CSCAA, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know who you're talking about in general, and you don't understand the behind the scenes. And I wish I could say more, but I don't know more. I do know that she handled a lot of the negotiation. This is a woman who testified in front of Congress to try to save our sports. She's working with executive directors and other coaching associations, volleyball, wrestling, softball, these sort of things. They unleashed this format onto the world, and my God, oh, the swimming purists lost their minds.
Change is interesting.
Painful, I think is the word.
Well, there's that too. I had people come up to me and say, "Hey, who were spectators, right?" And they all said basically the same thing. It's like, I should come to prelims instead of finals. Normally, it's finals is the sessions you want to buy your tickets for and show up for and make your plans for. I you know, there's no swimming. There's barely any swimming going on. There's a lot of sitting around, but I don't. It's interesting. It's from the kind of purist side of me, so much of the wars and the battles, uh, relative to team performance and team place, um, are won and lost in those B heats. And yes, you still have them in the morning, but it is not the same. Uh, because most of the time, the person who gets ninth in the morning, a lot of times, they don't win the console heat. They don't win the B heat. Um, somebody from lane 8 can steal it, and that's a huge swing of points.
More outside smoke swims
Yeah,
happen in
yeah,
B finals than they'll ever. I mean, we saw with Maximus Williamson, the two free. You don't see that in the A final
yeah.
nearly as much, but you will see
No.
that in the B final. Somebody gets a little extra pre workout, and they're lighting it up because they got nothing to lose.
Or they make an error in the morning, or whatever. Yeah, there were had a great talk with Jack Bell, and I can't say it on here, but he had some choice words about the situation.
Oh, you can say anything once. Don't worry. Um, we'll say this. What I love about this new system, like we said, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, I'll say it right at that. The automatic qualifiers. Love it. I love everything about that. To me, that is, again, nobody wants the underdog in swimming. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Kiss my ass. I want underdogs.
It
I
all
did find
depends
out
on
as long as we don't drop F bombs, we're gold. Um, I love it, man. I love everything about it. And I think it's what we need to help the sport survive. We talked about it earlier with the new changing landscape. And we heard two important things. Number one, swimming is getting linear TV next year, which is the goal has been all along. Softball, wrestling, track and field, and volleyball figured this out 10, 15 years ago. Swimming is late to the game. There's a few other sports, baseball's right in there as well at the collegiate level. We're behind. We're trying to catch up. But with the new changing landscape of college athletics, getting on linear TV is massive. The other thing that had came out is there is serious discussion of the Power Four conferences breaking from the NCAA in some capacity.
yes.
And if there's a full break from the NCAA, the minimum sport requirement is gone. It will not be there anymore. And as a result of that, you're going to see more mid majors, and you're going to even see Power Four programs, especially the men, dropping men's swimming. It's going to happen.
It's funny. To me, it depends on where you're sitting. You know, uh, if if you're a top coach who's having some of your kids bumped out for the mid-major kids, you're against this. Again, I went to a mid-major conference meet, and it was super, super, super exciting. And the whole it wasn't just the student athlete who ended up making NC2As, it wasn't just their own team who was going nuts for him. Free buddy. It was like, you're made for us. Represent all of us. That was so cool and exciting to see. I mean, Carter from LaSalle made the 100 free by a couple hundreds. I mean, the look on everybody in that place's face was amazing. And props to Coach Kerry Smith. She did a wonderful job with him, getting him there. So it all depends on where you're sitting. You know, there's both sides to every argument, right? But I I don't think it's a bad thing.
No, not at all. I think we talked about, for me, that's the good. The bad, the order of events, that took some criticism. To me, there are some events they do need to do some tweaking. The 1650 is the worst. It cannot be first. It needs to be. We got to figure out a way to get that on the last day. Or
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
I really I think that needs to be there. I'm not against a changing of the order of events. Um, but the mile to me was the most glaring one out of place. Um, I,
So so me and my being such an old timer and a traditionalist, uh, I'm like, oh wow, Florida, look at them. You know, they're so close to Texas, and they still got the mile here. To they're gonna rock that. They got a real shot on this thing. And then I'm like, wait a second,
yeah,
Dave, we already swum the mile that 2 days ago.
yeah.
Like, we don't have the mile, so it looks like Texas is in good shape. We're not gonna have a, come down to the last relay nail biter here.
See, and when I swam Division II at Ashland University. We were the first division to have the 4-day format, and without the 1,000. Now the 1,000 is in the meet now for Division II, but back then it was the 500 free, 2 IM, 50 free day one. Day two was 2 free, one fly, 4 IM. Day two was and this is no order. I can't remember the order exactly, but it was 2 fly, 2 breast, 1 back, and then the last day was the mile, 1 free, um, 2 back, and maybe I think there might have been, and yeah, so those were, it was perfectly divided. I loved how it was laid out at that point, and the relays were spaced out accordingly. I think there's still some tweaking to be done. And I know the CSCA and the NCAA are looking at all that. They're not going to sit back and say, all right, this is perfect. Change is painful. Change takes time, and I think right now we're seeing that change. And the problem is, though, is as our brethren in the sport, our coaching friends, we're not patient at all, and never have been, and that's a big issue. So, and then
What
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
You're good.
No,
You're good.
what struck me was I couldn't understand for the life of me why the most exciting races and the ones that most impact the team score are the relays. And why are most of the relays in the prelims where people don't get to see them? You get to look at the results, but you don't get to see them unless you're there. That to me is the glaring thing that's got to change. Plus, I mean, I heard from coach after coach after coach at the women's meet, one they made there at night. Because if you didn't have a swimmer, you didn't have a relay, you kept your kids home, got them, which the coach and me, I understand that, as you're trying to get them ready for the next day. But man, that is such an exciting part of those competitions. And we've been doing this long enough. Wild stuff happens in relays. That's when sometimes you see the upset. And to take that out and not have that be in the final session, um, I thought was silly. I thought was silly.
I think, yeah, you're not going to have the fans there, and the deck looked empty. And one of
Yes.
the things that
Yeah.
we can always say is
Yes.
that when you have a full deck, Even if you're doing relay only, if you all you have is relays, but you got people standing up and it's loud. So I think that's something that's going to get addressed. And then let's talk about the ugly. And I'm going to let you talk first because I have my own take on this. No consolation or B finals.
That's another frustrating one. Again, uh, it impacts the total team score so much. They are such exciting races. Um, and, uh, it's kind of weird that you're an All-American now and you only swim the race once if you're in consoles, you know? Uh, I don't think that's great for the student athlete. Again, it's another thing why the deck people aren't there. Uh, it stinks for the fans. You swim 2 races at night, okay, boom, boom, and then you sit around and wait. There's all this energy because the finals, they're great races, right? And then you wait and you wait and you wait. And eventually you swim 2 more races and everybody's excited and they're all jazzed up. And then, you know, diving, which is exciting and everything, but it's different, right? And and then there's only 1 heat of relays. It's a travesty. That's another thing. I know the importance of getting on TV is very impactful. But if we're going to put it on TV, let's give it the best product. Let's give it the best. Let's have Rowdy going nuts over the guy stealing the heat out of lane 1 in the consoles and how much that's going to impact the score of the meet. And he's good at that. Let him lose.
To be honest, I would rather have Katie Hoff and whoever was doing play by play in the prelims
I
do
thought they did a
finals.
really good job.
Oh,
Yeah.
they was the men's meet. They were phenomenal. Oh, it was
Yeah, I thought they
amazing.
did a really good job.
They did great. So here's my take. I'm gonna take
Lay it
some heat
on me.
on this. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet, but I not only do I come from swimming, I come from a track and field background. There has never been a consolation or a B final in track and field in history. And track and field is scheduled out. You know that the 100-meter dash is going off at this time. You know the 400, the 300, the 400 hurdles, the 10K, the 5K. It is scheduled out. Being a if you're just a swim person, you go to a track meet and you're sitting and you're waiting and all this, you lose your mind. But being from a track background, I see it. And for me, I don't know how I feel about no B finals yet. What I will say is this, and again, I wasn't in Federal Way last year, but from what I heard, we had well over 100 coaches, head coaches, in the coaches meeting in Federal Way, Washington, at NCAA's. I think it was for the men's meet. Across the board, it was almost universal. They looked at Sam Barney and said, "Whatever it takes, whatever you need, we got you. We got your back." And there were a few dissenting coaches, and they had conversations with some of the major Power Four players, and they were told, "Hey, we got it. We're going to get radical here." I sat at the CSCA convention and I saw at least 2 Power Four coaches stand up on stage and look across the room and tell Sam, "You just tell us what we need. You just tell us what we need to do. We're with you." And then you've got Sergio Lopez going on Instagram saying, "I'm not going to finals." And you've got other coaches saying it. Don't talk about it, not be about it. That's how it is with me. If you're going to stand 10 toes deep behind closed doors, man, you better be standing in front of Sam and the CSCA board, because I think we had some coaches hang them out to dry. And I don't do well with that. I don't do well with that at all. If you disagreed with everything from the jump, you didn't want any changes, and you were made it vocal in public, and you said I don't want these changes, don't make these changes, and pushback. I respect that. Do I, again, going back to the no B finals, I don't know that I don't like it. I know there were some ideas that were thrown out, but the coaches were the ones that nixed that. They wanted to do the B finals in kind of an intercession. And that got vetoed by the coaches because they didn't want to be out. They wanted to be with their teams back at the hotels. They wanted their, and we both know we're not going back to the hotel and just sitting there and watching TV. We're planning out things and getting ready for the next day and double checking food orders and making sure our accommodations and our travel is still good. So
A lot
it's
of
not like
moving parts. Yeah.
there are a lot of moving parts. So they nixed that. But then to go out there and publicly do that, I'm loyal. It's one of those two. Like I can sit here. I'm not a Division I coach. I can sit here and say all these things because I wasn't in those trenches. But I have a great relationship with Sam Barney. I think she's phenomenal. She's been very supportive of me and my transitions and stuff. So I'm going to stand with her on this one. But I'm probably one of the few people standing on that side with her. I know this. I know changes are coming. I know they're going to make the changes that are necessary, and not just for the quality of the viewing of the meet on television, but the quality of the experience on the pool deck and in the stands. This isn't a sprint, it's a marathon, and we've got to be ready for those changes. I hope they bring back B finals in some capacity. I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm sure those discussions are happening as we speak. Um, CSEA conventions in May. That's going to be a fun, and I'm going. I can't wait because I can't wait to sit there. But if Sam hears this, I mean, you have my support. I support you because I know her vision and I know that board's vision, and I've seen it with all of the people there, and so that's my take. I didn't like it because, like you said, if you finish ninth in preliminaries, like the University of Akron had a girl finish ninth. There's no way she's getting 16th now. She's the happiest swimmer. She's the happiest swimmer there is. But if you're 16th, you're angry that you don't get that chance to be ninth. So I think that's where we're at. I think college swimming as a whole is going to see some experience a lot of growing pains and a lot of changes coming, and not a lot of it is in our control. Football rules the world in college athletics, and they're the ones driving a lot of decisions. Adapt or die. That's what we got to do. Adapt or die. And it's unfortunate. So, college swimming is over. I can't believe I'm saying that. We've seen all the divisions. Um, it was an exciting year all the way across the board. To me, there is no sport quite like what we have. We do everything for 100th of a second. We train our athletes for 100th of a second. Um, yeah. The only thing that sucks about this time of year is now we got to wait until September before meets start kicking back up. The transfer portal is going full bore. I haven't looked lately. I'll pull that up real quick before we start heading to signing off. But I don't know that anybody new has a big name has popped in, but I'm sure by the end of today, by tomorrow morning, we'll wake up and somebody new is going to be in the portal. Probably a mid-major heading to a Power Four, but man, it was definitely a great year all the way around.
Yep, those were some good meets, some really good meets, and it'll be interesting how it all shakes out. Always is.
100%. Well, we it's time to get kicked out of the warm down pool. Thank you guys for listening as always. Signing off from my co-host Dan the Man Flack. This is Eric Skelly, and we'll see you next week. Have a good one.